one example. When I was a kid, I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and I got 40 bucks in all ones. I think it was my aunt who gave it to me for helping on the farm. I took that 40 ones and I put it in an envelope, and I duct taped that envelope shut. I'm talking probably a ½ inch of duct tape, and I put it in the cupboard because I wanted to learn how to save, and I swore I would not touch it. You know what? I ripped that envelope open by the end of the day and I went and bought a toy. That's how bad my savings has been my entire life. Hey, how you guys doing? My name is James Wynn, if you don't already know me. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, and you know what? Now's the time. I think I can help a lot of people out with this. But first, let me tell you a little about my own story. I own a small business in Northeast Ohio. My whole life, I have not been a good saver. Okay, I spent every dollar I made, and any dollar I could borrow, I was trying to spend even more than that. Never been good with money. I've never been good with planning, dieting, budgeting, nothing like that, right? I live it literally a minute at a time. To this day, I still don't really plan much, you know? I have ideas and I just kind of run with it. But I got to a point last year, and I've been in business for about 5.5 years now. And I got to a point last year where I was seeing over $10,000 a month through my own hands just from business and everyday expenses and everything like that. We do a lot of cash sales, plus website, Cash App, all kinds of stuff. So, but I saw over $10,000 a month in my hands. And there's been a couple times where we needed something like a battery for our car or new tires or something, and we just were not able to get it. There was nothing saved, and I'd have to borrow it. I had to borrow a few $100s at a time to go buy this or that. I mean, it could have been for the business, it could have been for personal, but I was just so sick with myself because, like, how do I have $10,000 a month coming through my hands, and I have nothing set aside, not only for tomorrow, but for next month, for next year? What about when I'm old, when I retire? You know what I mean? I had nothing, and I knew I had to change something. Now, for the first part, for the first, say, 5 years I've been in business, and most of my life before that, like I said, I live a minute at a time. I live like dude in the movie says, quarter mile at a time. But, you reach a point where you're like, I got a kid, I have a wife, and I have a son. He's about to be 10 years old next month. And I have nothing set aside. And I really didn't know how to start setting aside. I thought, if I just put everything I have into the business, that one day I would just make so much money that it wouldn't matter. I wouldn't need to save because there would just be so much money on hand at any given time. And I was really wrong about that. You have to save, you have to put something back. And a lot of times I had nothing to put back. I mean, the business, there's a lot of expenses, plus for the personal side, there's a lot of expenses. But it wasn't until April of this year that I really started taking it slow and starting to save in different ways. Now, it might be different for me than it is for you. But if you're an entrepreneur and if you run a business where you're seeing cash sales or any type of sales on a regular basis, these little pointers might help you even more. One, I like old bills. So if somebody paid with an old 20, an old 100, an old 50, or rare, a $2 bill, I'm saving it. So I put that in an envelope, and I always tucked it somewhere, put it in a safe, wherever I had. I just always saved the old bills. Now, I did start doing that late last year, probably in November. But in February, March, I ended up spending some of it. But after April, I never spent it again. Every old bill I got went in this envelope. Now, a couple months into saving old bills, I started doing another tactic that I like, and that's Cash App. anytime somebody paid me through Cash App, that money was untouchable. But those two things were not enough. I'm trying to think, after a few months, I didn't really miss that money. Sometimes I'd go weeks without getting an old bill. Sometimes I go weeks without anything in Cash App. Then all of a sudden someone makes a $100 purchase, or I might sell something through Cash App, and you got that money. It's just going into stocks, and that's going to go to stay for the long haul. Another thing, somebody who actually ripped me off, she was doing bookkeeping for us. She was said she was an accountant, which ended up not being true. Well, she's an accountant, she's just not a CPA. But anyway, she advised me to listen to a book by Mike Michalowicz, and it's called Profit First. Now, if you like to listen to Audible books like I do, that is a really good book to listen to. Now, I do not follow his whole program, but the one thing I like is the 1%. Every single paycheck you have, whatever your gross pay is, pay yourself first 1% of that. Now, my 1% goes in its own savings account. Now, that money is not going to stocks. That's going to be like my emergency fund. I might change that in a few months or in a few years, but for now, I'm just leaving that money alone. But I have now the old bills that went into stocks, the Cash App money that went into stocks. You can also do like Venmo or Apple Pay. Now, you can't buy stocks with that money, but you could leave it alone. If you're running a business, you got money coming in on different avenues, set something where the least amount of money you get in one place. Say you mostly do cash and credit card sales, but occasionally you do Cash App sales. Save all the Cash App money. That's what I do. Now, just since I started doing this, I have about $9,000 saved. Now, that's from somebody who's never been able to save $1 in his entire life. And it hasn't even been a year. Matter of fact, it's probably just over 6 months of solid saving that I did this. And there's about $9,000. Now, mind you, I do see a lot more money because of the business. If you don't own a business and you just work a regular job, it's different. You may not see that much. But those are certain things. The one most important thing is put your money in stocks and crypto. Now, cryptocurrency is very volatile. Do not put the bulk of your savings in crypto. Most investors, most money people will tell you only have about 5% of your portfolio in cryptocurrency, with the rest in the stock market. But one thing, people worry about, like especially with your 401ks, people are like, oh my God, I'm down like $4,000 right now. Listen, if you're not selling right now, it does not matter what those numbers say, right? It's like jumping off a roller coaster before it's halfway over. You have to hold on and stay on the whole ride. You know what I mean? So it does not matter what the numbers are showing in the short term. It's what's the long term that matters, right? Now, of course, if you're 70 years old watching this, it might be a little different for you. But if you're young, I'm 35. I just turned 35 in July. If you're younger than me, especially, put any dollar you can spare into stocks, into index funds, mutual funds, something. One thing I forgot to even tell you this. The reason I turned all my old bills and put them in the bank and bought stocks with them, cash loses value, right? Now, I wanted to save as much cash as I possibly could. I thought that was the safest bet for me. If you're anything like me, you may not trust the government very well. You know that with your bank account, anything electronic, they could shut it down at any time and say you owe them, or, if there's a war going on, they might close the bank, something drastic. I don't know if you're a conspiracy theorist or not, but at any time, they could lock your money if it's anywhere digitally. And that's why I wanted to save as much cash as possible. However, if I had $1,000 today that I started saving from, say, 2 years ago, that $1,000 is now worth roughly $900 because of inflation. So the paper money is actually losing value literally every year, which it does that anyway. We're just under crazy times right now that it's losing value faster than it ever has in history. But that's why I stopped with the cash and I put it all into stocks. Now, you do want to have some cash on hand for emergencies. It's good to save a good 3 to 6 months of your daily expenses set aside for emergencies. Now, I understand that might be hard if you're just starting out, if you can't save like I did. Now, I didn't save $9,000 in a day. I didn't do it in a week, right? It's probably been 6, 8, 9 months of doing this, give or take. And I started different tactics at different times. You just gotta hold on and be in it for the long haul. I'm telling you, one of these days, you're going to be looking at $1 million in your 401k or in your stocks if you're using Robinhood or any of those other apps. You got to start now. That is the thing. Even just 1%. Listen, if you're getting a $1,000 paycheck every 2 weeks, you're only putting $10 to the side. You're not going to miss that money. All right? If you're getting $1,000 every week, $10. That's $40 a month. You're not going to miss that. The thing is, don't spend it. And there's so many other ways, like living below your means. Don't use credit cards. Listen, if you're using credit cards and if you're leasing or buying a car with payments, you're paying 30% extra for everything. Especially if you use credit cards, you're paying extra for everything. The big thing is, start now. Start small. It'll build, it'll snowball. Next thing you know, you're going to have a mountain of savings. With that, hope you have a great day.